Morning, everybody. Well, didn't even look in the mirror first. I'm probably here disheveled and whatnot. No shower, stinky pits. I woke up and I was crying in the morning. Was I crying for bad reasons or because I'm sad? No. I was crying because of... I guess that's what I'm here to talk about. This excruciating happiness is the only way I can describe it. Elation. And it didn't come from any particular source other than a video I watched. Now, I'm a big fan of the band Papadosio, and they're not that popular yet, but they're becoming more so. A lot more people have found them, and when I discovered them, I instantly fell in love, and their music resonates with me strongly, and everybody who listens to music knows that the message behind a song is more important than any amount of video or excitement or guitar solos. It all means jack shit if there's no meaning in the music, at least to me. Now that's just to me, because I know there are plenty of people out there who will listen to shallow music and enjoy it, but the impact that Papadosio has on my soul is very strong for any band that I listen to right now. And they just came out with a new video, which my wife's like, oh, you should see the new video for this. And the song is called Distant Days. I actually shared the song a while back on Google Plus and Facebook and whatnot. And it was said, the first line is, when we look back, what will our children think of us when they look back on us? Mountains of waste and ash and whatnot. And how we have the potential to move into this utopian way, a better way of life. The song itself, the impact the lyrics had, is just amazing on me. But once I saw the video, it was all done with art and graphics. I'll try to post a link in the description. It's just the best video I've seen in a long time. And it's simple, They don't put a lot of money into their videos. It's the meaning behind it. And then I watched another one from them, which was one of my favorites, and it was about... they made another new video I hadn't seen, where a businessman's in an office, and basically these little nature nymphs and chicks start peeking around. He ends up going out into nature or whatnot. These simple ideas that we're trapped in these paradigms of business and prestige and popularity, and to even come out and say in a video, hey, I cried, oh, you're not a man, that kind of stuff. Real men cry, we know that, but for the right reasons is the thing. Are you crying because you're not doing well? If you're crying for yourself out of pity, then you are a pussy. I'm sorry, but, it doesn't mean we can't cry for ourselves. I've been in excruciating pain, physical pain before that, yeah, I cried. And mental anguish as well, when we cry for a dead one, But we get over that. The things that we cry about consistently, which might be something like, and this is why it moves me, and this is why it's such an intense thing to me, because after I was done watching the video, I watched another one of my favorite videos, which was Collective Soul from the 90s. So I didn't like the band Collective Soul much, but it was The World I Know is the name of the song, and it's, a businessman. He gives up, he's standing on a ledge, and then he sees the world for what it is. He sees the ants, he sees the people, and he laughs it off. And that's kind of my mentality in life. And I feel so sorry for people who cannot see that reality. The people who have a mask put on them by themselves that doesn't allow them to see the hidden beauty among things. They're so trapped in the paradigm that they've got to earn, they've got to make, they've got to be something, that they forget to be something and do something. And there are the, well-to-do businessmen who look down on the poor, and then the poor who look down on the rich businessmen. And, of course, this has nothing to do with business itself. There are many different types of businessmen, but I use that example as, the suit, the tie, the image of perfection that isn't, that we're all human inside, and that we all share this capacity to love and to understand. And I fight with my own mind back and forth on whether or not utopia is even a possibility. I've made so many videos in the last few years where one video I'll be like, yeah, we can do it. We can make a future for ourselves. We can change the mistakes we've made. And then the next week I'm like, oh, well, we're screwed. Society's going to collapse. We have to start over. People are going to die. There's going to be pestilence and war. Both realities are true. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but the idea is to remember that there is potential for utopia. And I'm not talking about just for our children or even just for us in the future. I'm talking about right now. When you put yourself in a mindset of that feeling of wanting, then it brings forth a whole new mentality. In other words, if I'd woke up this morning and not listened to that song, if I had gone and watched a news report about the war in the Middle East, or a war over here, or pestilence, or death, or disease, I would have filled my mind with negative imagery. I would have filled my mind with what's wrong with the world. And when you do that, you get too wrapped up in it. And it breeds this addiction of negative news. It doesn't mean we have to ignore the negative news. It just means that we can't dwell on it, because it really does consume your mind. And I see people around me who, one week they seem completely happy with life, and then the next thing I know, they've found all this negative information out, and they talk about how fucked up the world is, and how everybody's horrible, and people are all out for themselves, and it's dog eat dog. And then you turn around and you see a group of people, such as like at Burning Man or at Soak, when I went, where everything is run on volunteers. There's no exchange of money. There's no bartering. It's just about community. And most of the people understand that. And a small percentage of them don't, and will never. There's always going to be a small amount, or maybe even a large amount of people who do not play by the rules, who do not have any desire to be part of a group, and who will rob, steal, and cheat and lie. However, we cannot use that as our gauge for the whole of humanity. It's not fair. It's really not fair. And I won't get into the semantics about the wording, nor will I get into the whatnots about whether or not we are intended to be spiritual beings, or whether we're just here by chance as some fluke. I think all that becomes bullshit and irrelevant when we really look at what we feel inside. If you're not following your senses, your simple five senses, which are such a narrow band of the spectrum of what is, you can hear a small amount of audible sounds. I mean, I should say our hearing range is perfect for us, and our vision range is a narrow band with 3 primary colors. I mean, the reality is we don't see a lot of what's going on, so we do have a 6th sense, which is feeling. And this is my opinion, and of course I have no scientific evidence to back this up. I've thought about this for my entire life, and come to the conclusion that indeed we do have a sense of intuition that goes beyond our earthly senses and beyond this world. Something that allows us to know when something's right and wrong. A sense of obligation for altruism and to help others. Why? Because it makes us happy. And we could get into the details of, well, if a person's raised without humans, then they'll be selfish or greedy. I have children, sure, I've seen how kids can act greedy. But I've also seen how, a child can give something to another kid just to see the look on their face. Humans, by nature, have a choice of how we want to act. And if we choose to act greedily, we're going to justify that by seeing other greed in the world and saying, hey, I've got to get mine too. And if we love, then we see the exact same thing. That while greedy people are out there, there are many people who do care, and no amount of money will make us happy. No amount of resources will improve our lives if we cannot increase our capacity for altruism and care and compassion. These are the things that bring me happiness personally. I can't speak for anybody else but my own self. But many people I've discussed this with feel very similar, if not exactly the same. That there is hope for humanity, but moreover, there's hope for individuals. There's hope for us. It doesn't matter how old you are. You're never too stuck in your ways to change. I'm 40 years old. Yesterday I was driving to the store and I was thinking about how I was impatient sometimes. I think it was like how I'm impatient in traffic, or how I get frustrated with certain things. And it's never like I get angry. It's just a simple thing that I'd love to get rid of down the line. And I was thinking about how I'm an intense person and I'd like to change certain aspects. And I just said, hey, you are who you are. But by even considering the things that we want to change shows that we are open to change. And the interesting thing about being human is that sometimes we're willing to change in ways that don't benefit us. We're willing to change in ways that we might lose everything we have. Or so we think. I should say we lose everything material. And sometimes we may even lose everything spiritual and throw it away by helping someone else. Or throw it away by, by believing the truth for once. So each individual ultimately has to find their own path. And people can point the finger at one another. People can point the finger at me and say, hey man, you're delusional. And I would say, I don't give a shit. It's my life, and my delusion brings me happiness. But in the moments when I'm unhappy, in the moments when I'm stressed, in the moments where things aren't working right, I'm a human, damn it. I'm going to have those moments. We all do. At least once a day I sit back and go, what did I do wrong here? Or, how could I improve this? Or, maybe I've got to stop this habit or whatnot, But we're just humans. An example, somebody left a comment the other day on one of my videos. They said, have you ever considered stopping vaping? It's bad for your heart. And my response to them was basically, mind your own fucking business. My addictions aren't your problem. Of course I didn't say that, but after I responded, I thought, why does it bother me that a person says this? Is it because I'm looking at myself and they're right? And I thought about it and I said, no, it's not. It's because, I already know these things. I already know my addictions. I already know my shortcomings. But I use that example because I vape, and to another person they may say, that's bad for your heart. But not realizing that I was a smoker for 25 years and that this saved my ass from smoking. And that it doesn't matter how perfect you think you are, or how few addictions you may have, we all have problems to work on. But it doesn't mean that just because a thing was a problem for one person, that it's a problem for another person. So pointing the finger and saying this guy should stop smoking weed because I did and it makes me feel better to not smoke, that's a personal opinion. And it's difficult to gauge those things. Just being who we are and realizing when we are offended or when we're sad or when we're angry, that we analyze the feelings that we have and ask ourselves why, because those are the important moments. The times when we have the most intense feeling towards something is the times when we need to step back. So when somebody pisses you off, really think about why you're angry. Is it because they're right or because they're totally wrong? And if you're really sad, ask yourself, is there something that actually happened? Or is it something deeper, such as watching that video and seeing the meaning behind it and the hope for a future? That moves me. That makes me feel good inside. So that's me. That's my opinion on it, and everybody's got their own. So I do think that there is hope for people, but ultimately there has to be hope for yourself as an individual. You have to seek your own truth, because the world's not going to change for us. We have to change for the world. So